My biggest advice to anyone who's, one sentence would be, don't buy pre-sale.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Because it might never happen.
Well, there's
right?
lots of reasons, but that's the biggest one there is, it may not happen, but also there's a lot of properties out there. And if your expectation is to rent it out,
Right.
it's going to be a challenge.
Welcome to Expats Like Us, a co-production with Mi Vida Margarita, exploring the world of U.S. expat life in Mexico. In each episode, we'll meet new people and hear their stories. We'll also learn more about expat life and get a few tips on everything from making your move to settling in to living your dreams. And most of all, having fun. Let's dive in. I'm your host, Bob Bussey.
And I'm Chris Kowalski, and we are friends and expats who in the summer of 2021 sold our possessions, retired from our jobs, and made the move to Mexico.
Today we're thrilled to be talking with Nolan Clark. Nolan is a friend and a real estate broker and developer in Riviera Maya. He's also an interesting guy who's well known in the area for his music performances, either with a band or solo. Nolan is here to share his experience in moving from his original home in Canada to living mostly full-time in Mexico and adapting to a new life in a new country. He'll also give us some insight into how real estate markets work here in Mexico and some of the best practices in finding a home in the area. Hi, Nolan, and welcome to Expats Like Us.
Afternoon, Bob. Chris, thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming.
So first thing, tell us about your pre-Mexico life.
So, yeah, as you mentioned, I'm from Canada. I grew up in Vancouver, and I moved to the interior of British Columbia. I spent about 15 years there. I had a 25-year career in the IT field, doing various things from education at a local college to database development and application development, things like that. I moved in the fall of 2015, so I've been here a little over 8 years. I always had a love affair with Mexico. The first time I got here was, I'd say, 1990 or something like that, and I went to Mazatlan, and I really enjoyed the culture, the people, obviously the food, the climate, all things Mexican. But I started a family early in my life, as an adult, and so it took a while. And then had some tragedy happen in my family, and a divorce happened. So that was kind of the impetus for me saying, okay, it's time to go, check it out.
And what was the process of making the move from Canada to here? What was that like for you?
Well, it was relatively simple. I had just been divorced, so I was restarting in Canada. I didn't have a whole lot of items that I had to sell. I had a home that I'd purchased, and I ended up just, finding kind of a roommate guy who would, take care of the place. I sold a lot of my possessions, and when I got down here, I had a house that I had purchased in around the 2008, and so it was a relatively soft landing. I came down with my backpack with some T-shirts and shorts, a laptop, and my guitar, and that was it. Yeah.
So did you start real estate as soon as you got here, or did you start
music? So I started I wasn't sure what I was going to do, and I brought the laptop, but I really didn't want to jump back into the IT environment. Someone did offer me a position doing some work with their hotel, but the rate I was going to be asking for was, she said, well, that's what doctors make. So it kind of didn't. It fell apart there. I could have done some contract work for companies in Canada that I knew, but I really didn't want to, so I kind of held off. I started playing guitar at a local restaurant here weekly, and it was very interesting because just about every time I played, I'd do a set, 9-10 songs, and I'd put the guitar down, and somebody would wave me over and offer to buy me a beer and ask me, well, what are you doing over here playing guitar in this little, sleepy little town? So I would mention that, I just moved to the area and I had a house, that I'd purchased years earlier. And the question was always the same. Well, what do you know about the real estate market? So real estate actually it really did fall in my lap.
So how have you adapted your personal lifestyle to living in
great question.
It's not a foreign country to you anymore, but
Yeah.
at the time, a foreign country.
So, well, things like, I don't wake up to an alarm. Those are the things that I think are the nicest. I wake up when the sun wakes me up, and, the birds. I don't commute 9 to 5 anymore. So things like that. Obviously, I've had to learn Spanish, which after 8.5 years, I'm pretty good at it. I can get by for sure. Yeah.
Tell us about the transition to your new life in Mexico.
Well, that was very interesting. My original plan was actually to come down here. Like maybe a year earlier, I had gone to Sayulita, which is a town north of Puerto Vallarta on the west coast. And I kind of liked that town. I saw a couple of properties I was interested in. And my original plan was to come down here, fix up my house here and sell it, and then purchase something over on the other side. I ended up doing the renovations. I kind of reignited my passion for this house. I put a pool in and things like that. And I just started making some roots, so getting to know people in the area, and obviously the real estate, as I mentioned earlier, started to kick off. So I just thought, why would I abandon this? It's beautiful over here. So there's a lot of pluses. So.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
So during this process, did you have any unexpected challenges?
I wouldn't say they were unexpected. Nothing unexpected, I would say. It's just, you expect to have a challenge with the language.
Right.
I guess maybe something was unexpected was I missed playing ice hockey.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you really don't see a lot of that down here.
No.
Yeah.
I understand they're putting a rink in, so we'll have some ice in soon up near Cancun. So.
And from your experience, what are some of the things people should consider when they're getting ready to start a new life in Mexico?
Another good question. So what I tell people is, try to think about what's important to you. If it's going to be more of a sense of community, or let's say proximity to the beach and access to the beach, those things, those are two super important things. And that's, face it, that's why we're down here, right? Is to be at the beach as often as possible. Things like access to amenities, restaurants, those types of things. So.
Okay. And what are some of the things that people that you think, have you seen people that did not really think through the process of moving down here? And what sort of things were they not thinking about when they did that?
No, I can't say that I do know. I know that there are people who have moved into certain, let's say, well, I'll just say it, down into Tulum, let's say 15 years ago. They bought some land, they built a house in Tulum, and Tulum has grown up around them. So they've been, unhappy with the changes in that area. And that happens in Playa del Carmen. That's happened in Cancun or Cozumel as well. So they've wanted to sell and move somewhere that's maybe a little quieter. Tulum is very, I won't say transient, but there's a lot of Airbnb properties down there now. Right. So for people in our age category, I'm happy to show people down, property down in Tulum, but I'd like to.
It's kind of a younger person's town,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
We shared on our Expats Like Us Facebook page, I believe, a while back, we shared a photo of Playa del Carmen in 1989, an aerial photo, versus today.
I think I saw that. Yeah.
And it was like, a couple little couple little bamboo huts in 1989, and now it's hundreds of thousands of people. So.
Yeah.
So yeah, you got to plan on there being some big changes
for sure,
potentially wherever you go.
Yeah.
So as a well-known guy in the area, particularly because of your entertainment, your music, tell us about the work you did as a singer and a musician.
Well, I was really just a kind of campfire singer up in Canada. I didn't do any professional singing at all. I jumped in on a couple of open mic sessions in Canada, but when I came down here, I played music in my backyard, and a few neighbors came by and they liked it, so they said, well, Lapa Lapa, which is a local restaurant here, they had just opened, taken by new management. So one of my friends kind of threw it out there that I should play there. And that's really what kicked off the music. I bought some equipment and started playing on Wednesday nights. And then because I had the equipment, someone suggested I do some karaoke. So I started up a karaoke. That was on Monday nights. There's another restaurant that hired me to do karaoke and or play. And I also did some hermit crab races over there, which really took off. So through all of those events, I became pretty well known in the area. And also then I would shamelessly promote myself when the house was packed. I'd say, by the way, if you're having a good time, I sell real estate during the daytime, so come and get a card. So
I think you still do that. I saw
I
you
still-
recently. You still do that. But that's a good idea, and that's probably the way to do it. But yeah, you're well known for entertainment, but you're also known around here to me as the guy to talk to if you're looking to buy or sell real estate in the area. And how did you first get involved in that, and what was the process there?
Well, I've been pretty lucky with it. As I said, it did fall in my lap. So I guess it was early 2016. I went down to Tulum. I talked to a couple of different brokerages, and all of them told me that I could start the next day. So I won't mention which one I ended up getting on with, but I worked with them for about 5 or 6 months. I met a gentleman from Dallas who convinced me that, hey, you know what, you could be doing this on your own. So I looked into it. I started up a corporation, and that was that. I got licensed, and the rest is kind of history. So, yeah.
What's the licensing process like here?
Well, it's changed a little bit. It was very difficult for me because I had to take a 120-hour course in Spanish, and that was before my Spanish was very good. So they assisted, they helped, they were pretty good. And now you can go through a different organization called AMPI. So I went through cenotes, and now it's through AMPI, and they offer it in English. So I've actually just taken some, I guess, continuing education through AMPI, so I'll have that licensing shortly as well.
I've heard in the area there's a lot of people that present themselves as real estate agents, but they're not actually licensed. Is that something that you see or that you come across?
Oh, absolutely. I call them the bicycle real estate agents. So when I, first would put an ad out on, a couple of the different pages, and somebody would call me and say, oh, I've got a property that might fit. And I'd say, oh, let's meet at a coffee shop or somewhere. Okay. And then I'm waiting outside and they roll up on their bicycle. I'm not kidding you. So, licensing is required here in this state and in Baja California Sur, but I think that's it. These two, and maybe Mexico State as well.
So is there a way that one of our viewers, if they were looking for a property, that they can make sure that they're dealing with a license?
Eventually. That's what we're trying to move forward with, is actual, requesting, let's see your license, let's move forward from that.
I do remember that when I first got the idea of moving down here, we had a friend that have a friend now still, that lives in Playa del Carmen. And she said, oh, if you want me to hook you up with a house or something, let me know. She goes, in Mexico, everybody's a realtor.
Well, that's true too.
And I always remember that. And then, so now when I see people who are realtors say they're realtors, I always wonder,
Yeah.
But we know that you're the real deal. So
yeah, and I've been very lucky, like I said, through just word of mouth in the area. It's a small community. It's a very good, tight community. So I've been very lucky.
Yeah, very good. So do you sell, or are some of your clients Spanish speaking people, or is it mostly okay?
Yeah. I've dealt with, but it's a small percentage. I would say fewer than 10% of my clients have been Mexican or Spanish speaking, but there are a few.
Okay. So what's the current real estate market like here in Riviera Maya?
That's a really good question. Right now is high season, so it's hot, I guess. I've sold 4 properties in the last 5 weeks. So the first 5 weeks of 2024, got 4 properties sold or under contract anyways. COVID was kind of weird, so everything just kind of was stalled during the COVID years. And then the year when COVID was done, I sold 3 or 4 times more property than I ever had. And then last year was a little slower. It was kind of got back to normal. So there is a high season and a low season. Mm-hmm. There's a cycle here. So
right. And it kind of mirrors the tourist season
precisely.
Cycle.
Yeah. People come down, they know they're going to buy or they're thinking about buying, and they time their vacation with that purchase.
Okay.
Process, yeah.
I got a couple questions about this development here that you're currently working on.
Yeah.
So how does it work? Are they solar powered? Is there CFE here? Do they have wells? Do they have
Yep. So welcome to Haven Executive Estates.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a bit of a, snooty name, but Haven is a gated community, 7 single family lots, good size, 13,000 plus square feet. We do have CFE at every lot line brought in. Each lot has its own well as well. And we do a closed-in septic system. Okay. So the septic chamber has 5 antechambers or subchambers for water separation. It has a biodigester, which is a requirement by law. And it has basically just a holding chamber for the gray water, the final gray water with a pump. And that pumps out into enclosed planters. So a planter with a bottom and sides that's sealed, and it runs, several dozens of meters. So basically the water flows out from your house and eventually into your planters, and then just gets absorbed or evaporates.
Oh, okay. So it's kind of a whole little ecosystem you
Yeah,
got going
it doesn't
on
go
there.
back into the cenote system below.
Oh, good.
Okay. What about the water that you bring into your house?
Yeah,
Where
so
does
the water is pulled up from the cenotes, and that's why we're very careful with what we put back out of the house, right? So we don't
Right.
want to contaminate the water that we're pulling up into the house.
So describe what a cenote is, because people listening to this might not know.
Cenote is really just a term for the underground water, but the cenotes themselves are typically thought of as the openings where the ground has caved in. There's very few lakes or ponds here, so cenotes, as you guys know, are where the land has kind of fallen in, and now you can see the water flowing. It's crystal clear normally because they get a lot of flow, and it's super clean water because it's been filtered. So when it rains, it goes straight into the cenotes, which
Okay.
are probably
Right.
50 feet below the
Right.
ground level.
I read somewhere the other day that Mexico does not have any navigable rivers because of the landform that's so high in the central and it's so low on the coast that there's no, the rivers are either too fast or in this area, they're underground.
Last year I visited Chiapas and I did see a river. There was a beautiful, the valley there is spectacular.
okay.
If you're going to go on
Cool.
vacation, I would definitely recommend checking that out. So we could have taken the boat tour, which actually goes up a navigable river, or we could take the road. We chose that road and we went up and just, you're 2,000 feet above I don't know, 1,000 feet. You're way up there anyways, and you're looking down and just the views were spectacular.
Right.
So yeah, I think there are, but for sure here in the Yucatan, I wouldn't think there's any navigable rivers.
Right.
Yeah.
So as far as the real estate market here, tell people what's kind of the low end of a house that you can get and what that would cost and what would be included with that, all the way up to, middle range to high end.
Okay, so where I bought my first house in Mexico in 2008 was a little community called Chanchamoil. I still have property for sale there for $110,000, and that is a basic 2-bedroom, 1-bath house. It's got a front yard, backyard. There's no HOA there. The house itself is about 650 square feet, and it would need some work. So you might be able to pick it up for $100,000 USD. Everything I talk about in dollars in as far as money goes is going to be in USD.
Okay.
And that's kind of the starting point, I would say.
Okay.
Typical sales for me are condos in the Tulum Country Club, where you guys, are your area. 200 to 250,000 for a typical 2-bedroom, not penthouse, and then 300 to 350 for a penthouse. Single family homes, anywhere from 350 to, well, the sky's the limit. So I've got a very nice villa for sale for 800,000 down in Tulum. I've got a beachfront property for 3.25.
So what do you get for 800,000 in Tulum?
That's a beautiful house. It's Tulum style, which means it's got all the kind of the not rough finishing, but polished concrete and chacum, which is the wall finishings, I guess you call it.
Okay.
3-bedroom, 3.5 bath, plus a big pool, plus a guest house.
Okay.
And that's in a gated community as well.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Very, very cool. Some people, think they're going to buy places as an investment. Do you recommend something like that, or is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Loaded question. There are some opportunities, but generally speaking, people tend to get people will overpromise the return on investment potential, and that's what gets people excited, and they make the mistake of purchasing without really working through the numbers. I tell people to be very careful, interview several different vacation rental management companies, because that's really who you're going to hand it over to. You're going to buy a property, you're going to give it to a vacation rental management company who will be promising you probably higher returns than you're going to see. Ask to maybe interview 1 or 2 of their clients as well, and maybe have them pick them at random if they can. It's always better if you can augment through your own social media or your own networks, through work or wherever, if you can augment it, the advert or the promotion of your property. So I think it's a realistic expectation to expect that your property may be net zero. And what I mean by that is you'll have enough rentals through the year that your HOA, all of your payments, will be covered by the rental. So HOA and your property tax, which is negligible here, and your utilities, internet, etc. So.
Okay.
You got anything, Chris?
Is it better for an expat to rent or own, would you say?
Oh, it depends what they want to use the property for. If they're going to come down here to live, I would recommend that they purchase something for sure, because then it's theirs. They can do what they want to it.
Do you cover any rentals?
I don't do any rentals at all. Yeah. But I do advise people to come down if they're not sure. Come on down, spend a month or two, rent a place, and make sure that that this is the place for you. Right. A lot of my clients have visited the Riviera Maya over the last 12, 15 years, and they already know this is where they want to be. So they'll just come down and.
It's my understanding there's not currently an MLS type system here, but you guys are working on one. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. So, somebody wants to look at just a sampling, they can come to my website. It's TulumExpertRealty.com. There's a big aggregator. You've probably heard of Point 2 Homes as well. So you can look at property all over the world on Point 2 and you can, zero down. But there's.
Do you find that there's a lot of homes that are for sale that are not listed on those sites?
Not so many. But there's duplicates. And, this is where it gets a little complicated in the Mexican real estate market, where multiple brokerages have the opportunity to list the same property. So you might, I don't participate in those. That's called a non-exclusive listing. And it just doesn't make any sense for me to take a non-exclusive listing where I might work my butt off to try to sell that property and then some other brokerage sells it. So it just doesn't make sense. But you'll get these situations where multiple brokers have different pricing for the same property, or the property was sold a year ago, but the owner didn't tell the other 5 brokers, so it's still listed up there, and they use it as kind of a bait and switch tactic as well. So an MLS is overdue.
Right.
We're looking forward to it. Yeah.
I will say that my personal experience is when we started looking at places, we looked at condos like a lot of people do. We looked in Playa, we looked in Tulum. All the ones in Tulum that the guy took us to show us, all they were trying to sell it on was return on investment as a rental. And it was going to be, 30% return on investment. And I don't know a single person that's ever seen that happen, that actually bought one of those, that's one of the things I think you got to watch out for.
Absolutely.
Down here. That can't be the reason. The reason has to be that you want to have something to do with Mexico. Yeah. And perhaps live here probably. So
my biggest advice to anyone who's, one sentence would be, don't buy pre-sale.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. Because it might never happen.
Well, there's lots of reasons, but that's the biggest one there is, it may not happen, but also there's a lot of properties out there. And if your expectation is to rent it out,
right.
It's going to be a challenge.
Yeah. So what's the best place for people to begin their real estate search? If they've been coming down here and they think, we could live here, where do they begin?
Well, like I said, they can check my website out. They can call me. I'll give you guys my number, email, text, or phone call. I use WhatsApp almost exclusively.
Okay.
But they can hit me up on the website. That's it. I'm happy to share the information. Like one of the things that I honestly enjoy is just sharing the information with people. I don't have to sell you a house. It's just, I'll spend half an hour with somebody on the phone and just share the information, and maybe they'll decide that, hey, this isn't the place for them. But
right. Yeah. Well, that's very good.
I was going to say, so as an expat, what are your favorite things about living here, and what are your least favorite things?
I was going to mention earlier, comprobante de domicilio. So this is one of the things that I try to teach people. Comprobante de domicilio, you guys probably know, is proof of address. And that's one of the challenges. And it just seems that, I joke with people that sometimes you need to bring your comprobante de domicilio to buy a loaf of bread. That's an exaggeration.
Right.
It just seems like...
we know how that goes, right?
You're trying to get something done and you just don't have the right paperwork. Oh, do you have a copy of your passport? Yep. Oh, but you need 2. Yeah. Today you need 2. Okay. So there are some frustrations. I'm not sure. I love the beach. My girlfriend and I have a sailboat, so we go sailing a lot. We'll hit Cozumel and do things like that. So just the outdoor living. There's a lot to do. The golf course here is fantastic.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can't say that I have one specific thing that I like the most. Not being cold. Yeah. I guess that's probably it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a big attraction for Chris and I too.
Yeah. I'll never be cold again.
Yeah.
Right. I will never shovel snow again is what I always say. So if you had a list of the top things people should consider when making the move, either just for themselves or buying property or whatever, what would those things be?
So I would consider sense of community. That's probably number one thing. Do you want to be near people? You know, when you wake up in the morning, you look across the street, or, you know, the patio next door, or walking, you know, down the trail. Is that a new face, or is that someone that you've gotten to create a relationship with? So the transient nature. If you're buying down in Tulum, you're going to see a lot more, because there are tons and tons of Airbnbs. So that's probably number one, is just what's more important to you, a sense of community, or is that important at all? Proximity to the beach and access to the beach. So how close are you to the beach, and how difficult is it to get onto the beach? Because not all places, even though you may be close to the beach, it might be a little more difficult to get on it. And then obviously, you know, things like amenities. We have a great pickleball community here.
Right.
There's tennis courts around here. We can go walking and cycling. And obviously the golf courses that pepper the area as well, and the beach, you know. Yeah. And I guess lastly would be things to do, and restaurants. So, and price. I guess that's the last thing too, right? So it's some of the bigger centers, the prices are starting to go up. They're U.S. prices for sure.
What do you think, Chris? I think it's been fun. Do you
Yeah,
have any
it's
more
been a great
questions?
time. No, I don't. I
All
think
right.
you've answered them all.
Well, thank you so much, Nolan Clark, and
more than
thanks for
welcome.
joining us on Expats Like Us. Hey, give us your website real quick.
Okay, yeah, it's TulumExpertRealty.com.
Okay.
You could throw a www in front of that if you
Okay.
want to.
That's easy enough to remember. TulumExpertRealty.com.
That's right, yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much, Nolan Clark. Thanks, Chris.
Hey, thanks, Bob.
right.
Thanks,
Thanks for
Nolan.
having me on, guys.
You bet.
All right.
In each episode of Expats Like Us, we're going to teach you a new Mexican slang word. This is something you may not find in your phrasebook or your online Spanish class or your Spanish app or wherever you're learning your Spanish. Instead, this is a term used primarily by Mexican Spanish speakers. Today's word is
Metiche.
metiche. I have no clue what that means. Can you spell it?
That is Metiche. Metiche.
Okay. And what does metiche mean?
It's a person who has his or her nose in someone else's business.
Okay. Very good. Don't be a metiche.
Yes.
Gracias, Erica Kowalski from Mi Vida Margarita. We'd love to hear your thoughts on today's topic. Just look up Expats Like Us on Facebook or send us an email at expatslikeus@gmail.com. You can also see the video version of today's discussion and all of our discussions on our YouTube page. Follow, like, subscribe, and leave us a review. Thank you to today's guest, Nolan Clark. Thanks also to my co-host, Chris Kowalski, and our co-producers, Erica Kowalski and Sherry Bussey. Most of all, thank you for tuning in to Expats Like Us, and thank you for interacting with us on social media. Next time, we'll bring you more first-hand information about your international move. Until then, remember, our homes are not defined by geography or one particular location, but by memories, events, people, and places that span the globe.